Hello, so fundamentals of case management practice, skills for human services, chapter 17, using the DSM. I actually have my own copy, so I'm happy about that. What is the DSM? DSM stands for Diagnostic and Statistic Manual of Mental Disorders. It is used by numerous agencies and services besides mental health. The first DSM was published in 1952 and to try to standardize psychiatric diagnosis and the language used to describe them. We are now using DSM. There are no more axes. Is DSM only for mental health? With deinstitutionalization, more people with psychiatric diagnosis come for services in a variety of agencies and services. The DSM is the language of insurance and funding sources. While you do not make the diagnosis, this is about familiarizing you with the language so that you can be conversant with others who use the DSM. Caution. Most people seeking services in human service agencies are not mentally ill. The DSM is based on the medical model, which treats the individual as sick, which can subtly diminish the person. Others may see the diagnosis. People have a right to know their diagnosis and who will see it. Do not take cultural differences to mean a person is mentally ill. Some background. Most recently, clinicians have used the DSM-4-TR. A good explanation of this system is found in an appendix of your textbooks. Some clinicians may still be using it, or someone returning for services may have a DSM-4-TR diagnosis. It will take time for the DSM-5 to be used universally. DSM-5. Similar disorders are in adjacent chapters. The DSM-5 looks at neuroimaging, neuroscience, and genetics. APA, American Psychiatric Association, makes supplemental material available online. The WHODAS 2.0 is included in the DSM-5. From the World Health Organization, it is self-administered and gives an idea of how well the person is functioning. There is a symptom severity chart for psychosis. The ICD numeral codes are included to bring diagnoses into line internationally. Before making the code, you need to be able to pair a person's complaint with an appropriate chapter. Example, if the person complains of hearing voices, you would turn to the chapter titled Schizophrenia Spectrum and Other Psychiatric Disorders. Each chapter contains a group of somewhat similar or related disorders. Each disorder has a list of criteria used to make the disorder. Making the code. The code or diagnosis is written in this order: the name, the number of the disorder, the name of the disorder, the severity of the disorder, when required, any specifiers that apply. Multiple diagnoses are listed one under the other, with the most prominent one listed first. Other conditions. There are times when people seek help, but they do not have a DSM diagnosis. If required to code these, turn to the chapter titled Other Conditions that may be a focus of clinical attention. You will find normal responses to life changes. You will find a number of relationship, income, and abuse issues listed here as well. When the diagnosis does not quite fit, in each chapter you'll find a section that gives you other choices. There is a select section titled Other Specified Disorders, which gives you options that might fit better. If none of these work, turn to the end of the chapter under Unspecified Disorders and use that as the diagnosis. Example, unspecified depressive disorder. This section is at the end of every chapter, used when we know the symptoms belong in a certain category of disorders, but the person does not entirely meet these. when there is no number. If there is not a number with which to code a diagnosis, the DSM is asking for more specific information. The DSM will ask specific questions about the person's diagnosis. Each answer you choose will have a number which functions as the diagnosis and gives more detail about the current situation. So that's it. Thank you for listening.